But I did it! Just kidding. Hi! I'm just bringing it back, you know.
Yeah.
How are you, Evelyn? How are you today?
I'm doing all right. My cinematic horizons have been broadened
Yeah, right. I
by
can't
watching
even
this movie that like
believe.
everyone's talked about for like 12 years now.
Yeah, exactly, Evelyn. I can't even believe you finally have your filmmaker card, honestly, because like without seeing this, I don't know how you didn't.
I mean, Nolan is such a cinematic genius. Have you seen Memento?
I mean, I like Nolan. He's just like not one of. He has a couple really good movies,
Have
and
you
then
seen
like
Inception? It's like the dream, but it's like reality, and you don't know if it's the dream because like, is the top gonna stop spinning or not?
it's not Christopher Nolan's fault, but yeah, I feel really bad how like a lot of cinema posers who are very gatekeepy
Yeah.
and rude, like they always really love Christopher Nolan movies.
He's
It's not you, Christopher Nolan.
Yeah,
It's
he's
definitely
like,
not
yeah,
you.
He's inherited that burden from Tarantino, I feel
I
like.
think so. Yeah, they split off into two camps. They're either Tarantino or they're Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Which is sad because there's a lot more to Christopher Nolan movies that they could analyze and assess that are very effective, but you know. They just got to gatekeep about the top, but that's fine.
Oh, it's like he has the tattoos, but then you realize he's the...
Oh my god! What? But
Okay.
so today we're here to talk about The Dark Knight.
Woo.
So, The Dark Knight, it's the second movie in the Batman trilogy, you know. I feel like a lot of you know about it, but basic plot summary. Joker shows up, he robs a bank, and then the movie starts.
Yeah. I did, like, speaking of things that you can see in everything, because I keep coming back to James Bond, another movie that you can keep coming back to, like, the intro sequence to this film was basically, like, a play on Heat, and...
Oh my god, that's a really good point. I didn't even think about that, yeah.
You have, what's-his-name from Prison Break, like, in there really briefly, with the shotgun, and, like...
And, like, I think, like, the thing I think this movie does very effectively that started a very upsetting trend in film where people don't do it effectively is the whole idea of, like, a villain existing that just wants to cause chaos.
Yeah.
I don't think that's an effective trope that people utilize to its full effect because they kind of turn it into a because movie thing. But in this movie, Christopher Nolan does an excellent job of showing a chaotic character very effectively.
Yeah.
And that's a high point I see of Joker. But I think Joker, he gets very mythologized.
Yeah.
With the whole, like, you know, historical relationship, you know, Heath Ledger had with it and all that stuff. And so it's really difficult, so, you know.
Yeah. I've spent a lot of time thinking about that.
Yeah, I know Heath Ledger does an excellent job, and I'm not going to take that away from him, but I think, like, in a lot of ways, like, I don't know why everybody likes Joker so much.
Yeah.
Even, like, earlier on, like, Joker's such a huge character beyond Heath Ledger's Joker, and I don't get it.
Well, I was gonna, like, I think, like, because for me, like, Heath Ledger's, like, I think people like Joker as a villain, but Heath Ledger's Joker was when I saw the character become the really mythologized, like, symbol that he is now. And I think a lot of that stems from, we were talking about kind of the post 9/11 environment where, like, there was this idea that, like things are broken and, like, either they need to be, and that's kind of a central conflict of, like, Batman versus the Joker in this film, is Batman saying things are broken, someone needs to do something about it, and the Joker saying things are broken, so what's the point of anything?
Let's just exploit that, yeah.
And I think, because I know, like, before the Heath Ledger Joker, I noticed, like, a lot of the same people that latch onto that character really latched onto, like, V for Vendetta.
That's a very, very
like,
good point.
I think, like, because the Joker had that ideology, and then because Heath Ledger died when he, like, during the filming of this movie, I think it turned the character into something else, because it made it this, like, macabre, like, it added this macabre level of
and I remember the press around it too. I remember vividly reading an interview that, or I remember there was a headline in an interview where Jack Nicholson, like, is in response to Heath Ledger's death, was just like, well, I warned him about playing Joker. And it was like, what? So yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah.
Although also I like, Someone was saying, why is it everyone talks about playing the Joker and, like, it being such a hard thing when Mark Hamill has been voicing the Joker for, like, literal decades and is one of the chillest guys ever.
And Mark Hamill is like my favorite Joker, honestly, if I'm being completely real here. But yeah, I do like Heath Ledger's Joker.
Yeah, he does a good job.
Yeah, he does a very excellent job, but I think the cultural reception around it is very interesting / I don't fully understand, but you know. And I mean, it's something I'll talk about a little later on too, which I can have you on for that one too, Evelyn. But next month I'm covering films that I really love that everyone else hates, or films that I really hate that everyone else loves. And one of those films that we're going to be talking about is Joker, like the Joaquin Phoenix one, because I think it's so interesting that so many people latch on to a character like Joker. It feels like because they see themselves in him, but like not understanding that he's not supposed to be like, he's supposed to be the negative you can be, not like that's me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it definitely comes from a very like, I don't know, like embittered teenager mentality where it's like things aren't going the way I want, so I'm just gonna be like try to embrace negativity and stuff, and then like you get a couple years older and you realize you just need to chill out a little.
Drag. But yeah, that's a lot of that. If you're somebody who's struggling identifies with Joker, I just really want to have a conversation with you. I just want to converse with you, like honestly, because I really don't get it. Like, and I'm not even like coming from like, it's fake deep, blah blah blah. Yeah. I just literally don't understand it.
Yeah, I definitely think it's like a like level of like people being done, so they feel like they like. Yeah, I feel like that would be a whole other podcast to delve into the psychology of that, but I think people who, like, it's kind of what this movie is about, so it's interesting that people, like, get that part of it and not the rest, but they, like, people feeling like there is no hope for the world, or, like, there is no hope for, like they're outcast from society or whatever.
Yeah, because it feels like a very existentialist thread, and I would describe myself as an existentialist in religious terms because I think it clarified the world for me in a way religion clarifies the world for people. Like, in that I saw existentialism I saw it as, you know, nothing matters in the world, but that's a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? As opposed to nothing matters in the world, so it sucks. Yeah. So I guess maybe that's why I have a disconnect, because my level of existentialism always came out in a very like, that's good, not a that's bad. You know what I mean?
Which actually that's, I think, so they're talking about, I think this film even, like Dark Knight even more than Batman Begins, kind of adopts a lot of like noir, kind of like, not iconography exactly, but a lot of stylistic cues from noir. And I think the interesting thing about noir is that if you're a completely idealistic person, you find noir very depressing because you believe that everyone in the world is good, and noir says everyone's good, but they're also bad. But if you're someone who's very cynical, then noir suddenly becomes very optimistic because you believe everyone in the world is bad, but noir says, but everyone's bad, but they're also a little good. Yeah. And I think Dark Knight is a really good example of that optimistic noir, because as gritty as the film gets, it is very idealistic by the end.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point, honestly. And then too, like, because I mean, the whole, like, I want to talk about the villain that I really like in it. You know, Evelyn and I have talked at length about this in the car on the way over to the recording studio.
He's like, much more compelling than the Joker.
I agree.
And, like, that's not a dig at the Joker. Like, I think he's just got a better.
Yeah, that's no dig against Heath Ledger. He did an excellent job. But yeah, I think that Harvey Dent in his arc is so incredibly impactful and so well done and strong, and I just really appreciate it. So Harvey Dent, he's the district attorney of Gotham, and he's in a relationship with the character Rachel Dawes, blah blah blah, and
who just got recast as Maggie Gyllenhaal, and I did not realize that until the movie was over.
That's hilarious. You were like, wait a minute.
I'm like, Rachel looks different. She do something with her hair?
It's been a couple of years. Wow. But yeah, it's really interesting because you have Harvey Dent functioning as this overly positive ideological person, you know? And I think it, like, his optimism comes from a very privileged place, and that's what makes his arc so effective for me. because I think it mirrors a lot of privileged people I see, in that, you have people who come from privilege talking a lot about, no, the world's fine, we can fix it, it's going to be okay, everything's going to be fine. And then something world-rocking happens for them, like, not to the extent of Harvey Dent, but something world-rocking happens for them, and then they immediately go into the, like, super nihilist, like, everything about the world is horrible camp. And that always really fascinated me.
Yeah.
And that's something I really liked, that I think is a super strong core of our culture now. And it might even be why people defer to Joker so much, because, you have, I don't know. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, it comes back to that shades of gray. To someone who's seen the darker side of the world, shades of gray are actually very comforting, but to someone who hasn't seen that darkness, shades of gray are terrifying and world-shattering. Shades of gray are terrifying.
Yeah, and so, like, I get the sense that Harvey Dent is a very topical character in today's climate, but he's also a very just well-written character in that sense, and so it's really, really fascinating to me how he functions. I also really love his whole idea of, sometimes you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. It goes back to that Orson Welles thing of, like, if you want a happy ending, it just depends on where you stop your story. And that's really interesting to me, and it's a shame that so many people take that and use it as a fake deep thing now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's a whole, and that goes back to, I said, I haven't, on the way over here, I was telling Erynn, I haven't, since Casablanca, I haven't watched a movie that's been so, like, casually quoted and misquoted in, like, modern society. Because there were lines that I heard, and, like, because, again, I'd been missing this movie for, like, 12 years. There were lines I heard, and I'm like, oh, that's where that came from?
That's where this movie... What? Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's a really good point that I think, it's something that's really sad to me about The Dark Knight. Because I think The Dark Knight's an it's suck because I say it's overrated, but the reason I say it's overrated is not because I think the movie itself is overrated. Because the parts people talk about, I think, are the most surface level elements of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think also, because a lot of people talk about Joker and they boil it down to, oh, I like his chaos. But I think going a step further than that, the way Joker so effectively... It's not even that Joker's... Because the thing that people misunderstand, I think, is that he's not just doing whatever the fuck he wants because he can do whatever the fuck he wants. Yeah. Everything is very calculated and planned out. He's not like this actor who's just doing whatever he wants, like people perceive. He's a very cold and calculated person. I mean, just look at the horrifying interplay between Rachel and Harvey Dent, like, when they're both in those two separate, areas, and how he cons everyone.
That hit differently.
Right? It's fucked up and it's horrifying, and it's not just wow, he's so crazy. Like, you know what I mean? And it's that, and all of that being for the purpose of getting Harvey Dent to this place where he becomes a villain because he's so far fallen from grace, because, like we said, his worldview is so shaken and rocked, realizing how bad the world is after being like this overtly optimistic person is something that's so interesting about how the way Joker sets up things.
Yeah.
It's not like what's his butt's Joker in Suicide Squad where you're just kind of doing whatever.
Yeah, and also, like, the fixation on Batman is a big part of Joker's character, which is I think going back to, like, I think the part of Joker people miss is that he comes out and he has this idea of, like, he kind of wants to make everyone see the world like he does. Like, that's kind of his end goal. Mm-hmm. And, like, the whole thing of the movie is, like, yeah, the world is a terrible place, but there is good, and there are, like, even when it got, like, it was maybe a little cheesy, but I think it worked the way the people on the boats ended up deciding to, like, not blow each other up and whatnot. But, like, this idea that even if he could break Harvey Dent, there is still good and there is still hope. Mm-hmm. And, like, I think that's the part of this that people miss, is that, like, the Joker himself was missing a big part of this puzzle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even, like, the way the ending comes around and the way Batman doesn't blame Harvey Dent for his perception.
Yeah.
That also strongly fascinated me.
Yeah, and the whole idea of, like, heroism sometimes meaning, like, not... It's almost like a parenting mentality of, like, sometimes you have to not be people's friends so that you can take care of them.
I love that. I'm gonna
Like,
cry. That
like,
hit
that's-
different. I'm just kidding.
Because like there's this idea that Bruce Wayne struggles with the whole movie of like wanting to be the hero who helps everyone and everyone likes, and like realizing that sometimes to do for people what they need, you have to be willing to make them angry at you and hate you because you gave them what they needed but didn't want.
Oh my god. This movie hits different. Just kidding. Evelyn, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm sitting cross-legged and one of my legs like just went numb.
Evelyn keeps yodeling the mic.
My leg fell asleep and I was trying to like casually move around.
Oh my god,
it,
what leg?
Like... Ow. Also, that was my leg that wasn't asleep.
Shit. I just kicked Evelyn's leg, but I kicked the wrong one apparently.
But yeah.
I'm gonna cry. That hit different. But yeah, it's such an effective film. So effective.
Yeah.
Very good.
Which is like that was the thing. Like, I watched it and I wasn't blown away, but I'm like, okay, yeah, no. Like, the people who like spent 10 years telling me this was a good movie they were onto something. They
were onto something. They were. It's not overhyped yet. Like, that's good. Because I also really like the opening scene.
Yeah. Also,
I like the film aesthetically.
I definitely get why like the kind of dude bro contingent latched onto this movie, because it is like there is a lot of action, and so I feel like it like people who choose to watch it as just a guy movie where there's lots of like cool guys doing cool fight things.
There's this really funny scene though in the fight scene that cracks me up every time. It's one of my favorite like action movie jokes. They're like driving or whatever, and Joker's in the car and he keeps shooting at it, and he just gradually gets bigger and bigger guns to shoot at it. That kills me every time. That's so good.
Also, Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox, he gets a lot more time in this movie.
He's really good.
And like I actually like again like I'm gonna sound like such a dork talking about these scenes that everyone has talked about for but like that part where the guy's like, I know Bruce Wayne has been building Batman equipment, and he's like, so let me get this straight. You think your millionaire boss is a guy who runs around with high-tech equipment and beats the crap out of people, and your plan is to blackmail him? And the guy just kind of like withdraws and walks away. No, this is a good scene. But like I think like scenes like that like are good examples of we get a lot more of Lucius Fox as a character, and kind of him as both a secondary mentor figure and as like a part of the Batman team. He almost, in a way, he kind of fills the role of like where a Robin character would fit. Instead, we have this older character who's more not bureaucratic, but like tied to the technology and like Bruce Wayne side of things, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. And how do you feel about the whole... Is this the one with the cell phone plot?
The sonar thing?
The cell phone plot? Yeah, what do you think about that? Thoughts?
Like, that felt very... Like, this movie... Like, Dark Knight, at points, felt very James Bond-y to me. And the cell phone thing felt very James Bond. Like, because it felt comic booky, but it didn't feel comic booky in a Batman way. It felt comic booky in a, like... James Bond car turning invisible kind of way. Mm-hmm. And like that's a very hard distinction to make, but like yeah. And also I guess that was the thing is I always think of the Nolan movies as being sort of in denial about their comic bookiness, but in practice I feel like they knew how to toe that line, because like going back to Harvey Dent, like his introductory scene where a guy like pulls a gun on him in court and he like just John Wicks the thing out of his hand. Like, that's a very comic booky moment, but in the context of this world, it gives us like just enough of a hyper reality for all the Batman elements to kind of make sense. Mm-hmm. So like the tonality, I think, was I was kind of surprised how well it worked, because again, I'd always thought of these films as being a little on the grim dark side.
Sorry, I'm in a Roman Polanski argument right now.
Oh gosh. Also, how about that one scene where we're like, oh yeah, the Scarecrow's still loose after the first movie. We better tie that plot
I was
thread
like,
up.
oh, yes. Is it Killian or Cillian?
I don't...
Because I never know.
Yeah.
Hey, okay, Google. How do you say Cillian Murphy's name?
Killian. On the website dailyedge.ie, they say, Cillian Murphy. Tempting as it might be to call him Cillian, it's Killian.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you, Google. Okay, Google. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So it's Killian
Murphy.
Murphy.
So it's Killian Murphy. I'm glad we clarified.
Yeah. He's listening like, dude, you got my name wrong.
Guys, oh my god, I'm so sorry. I just spilled water everywhere and it was in recompense. it was to atone for the sin of calling him Cillian. The sin. That was so bad. I'm sorry.
This building just gets flooded with fear gas and we'll start freaking out.
We're both like, but yeah. I think The Batman is such an excellent film. Yeah. The Batman.
the Batman, that WB cartoon from 2007.
I think The Batman. Am I on fear gas right now? What the?
That is a funny thing that that's a thread from the earliest Batman movies into modern ones, is where people keep referring to him as the Batman. And I don't know why, but that just makes me chuckle because it feels like a very unnatural way to refer to Batman.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, yeah, how do you feel about Rachel Dawes? I really like how she's relevant throughout the entire trilogy, but I do not think she falls into the trope of because you get that sense a lot. You have a lot of women that have to die so men can realize their greatness.
Yeah.
I think she's a lot more dynamic than that, and that's something I really appreciate.
Yeah, because I guess a weird distinction to make is when she died, I was sad because she died, not just because Bruce/Harvey's girlfriend died, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. She actually, when she died, it had impact because of who she was, not because of what she meant to others. That's
a really good point. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Yes. Excellent.
And yeah, I think this was the first time, because a lot of the Batman movies, they would do that thing, again, another James Bond thing, where you have a different female love interest every movie, and it always ends and makes it seem like they're going to be together forever, and then it gets to the next movie, and it's oh yeah, they broke up, they're not together anymore. So having a single female character throughout all of the movies, I think made her a lot stronger.
At Pepper Potts.
I didn't mind Pepper Potts. My opinion on Gwyneth Paltrow has shifted drastically, but I didn't mind Pepper Potts.
I was about to be let's just do a video where we read Gwyneth Paltrow quotes.
Just go through Goop product listings.
Oh my god. I spent 30 minutes in Robert Von Dasinovsky's office, and we both talked about the vagina candle for a half hour. And how fucking weird it was.
Can I get it to be a surrogate thing until I have the surgery? I don't know if we need to cut that out or definitely keep it in.
We're keeping that in. So for all you listeners out there, I think we've officially talked about The Dark Knight. I think we officially wrapped it.
Yeah.
We really like The Dark Knight, and we are really frustrated that people focus on what they focus on. Yeah. And that's our thoughts.
Also,
And also don't buy Gwyneth Paltrow's $400 vagina candle.
Oh yeah. The other random thought, speaking of things that got ruined for me. Michael Jai White is in this movie very briefly, and he's really good. He's the guy when Joker first comes in, and he's "Oh hey, I'm the Joker, and I'm gonna stab a guy with a pencil."
Oh yeah. If I had a nickel for every time any weird dude tried to quote that scene to me to impress me, I'd be able to pay for my first year at USC.
Yeah, but Michael Jai White is in this movie, and he's really good. But I can't not think of Black Dynamite whenever I see Michael Jai White.
I mean, is that a negative? Yeah. Because I think it's a wonderful positive.
He does sell drugs to the community.
Next time I'm going to be talking about The Dark Knight Rises.
It would be very painful.
For you. Because I freaking love The Dark Knight Rises. I think it's perfect.
Oh, yeah. I won't be on there, because guess what other Batman movie I still need to see?
Go watch it! If you watch it this week, you can be on it.
Hey,
That's a threat.
An ultimatum.
That's a threat. But yeah, thank you all so much. And then after that episode, we jump into the DC cinematic universe that we all know and love today.
Apparently they want you to call it the DC extended universe, so that it's like, because they're like, we don't want to be like Marvel. We're an extended universe.
What is it, because they always tell us that they have secret longer cuts of all their movies that are better?
Ooh.
Oh, bye.